Inspirational Leaders series of VCast. It's a real pleasure that you managed to join us today, and I'm very hopeful and interested in what we're going to be discussing, so thank you.
Thank you.
Ade, you've done had a fantastically successful career. You've had many interesting roles, and what I'd like to do is, before we go into discussing your roles and discussing leadership, etc., what I'd like you to share with us is just the first thing I want to ask you, which is, what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a young child?
That's a very interesting question, because it's a little bit different from the way my career and leadership journey has grown. I wanted to study agriculture, and I was fascinated from a very young age about how things grow and how, I would say, I'm talking about both plants as well as animal, came from a good interest in science. And my career journey has been slightly different in terms of being much more involved with finance, with banking, and engaging people. And I think a huge part of that was due to what I would say experience, just an opportunity to do an internship in the financial services, and it's something that I guess I demonstrated some fairly good aptitude and engagement with, because it involves working with people as well as working with numbers, and working with process.
Okay, so before we go into your first job, etc., which we'll mention in a moment, I'm interested, can you tell us a little bit about your family? Where did you grow up, and what did your family do, and who were the role models around you where you got interested in the things that you were interested in?
I grew up in Nigeria, and I've had the opportunity of working in different countries across Africa, and obviously schooling in the UK as well. And over that period, I come from a family of 4 other children, and they engage in various very different disciplines. I think only one has made the decision to be in accounting or finance. So both in medicine, in engineering, communications, in HR, those are the kind of careers. So it's all very varied, and that reflects the way my parents looked at life as well as career choices around giving the family the freedom to make those choices. My father was in public service, and he had the opportunity of working in different people and working with people. And in the meetings and the interactions around the family table, the value of appreciating the views or multicultural settings where we had to live, because we didn't just stay in one particular location, I think it helped. And so in pursuing a career in international finance, where you had to work across geographies, it's a very good early start in terms of appreciating those kind of issues.
So what did you learn about, you mentioned about the family, you were moving around, and learning about different cultures and values and people, etc. What did you learn about leadership from that upbringing?
I would say the most compelling piece that comes to me is that people do have a lot of ideas and suggestions and vision. And again, this comes from whether it's public sector or private sector. Being able to actually run with those ideas and committing and being accountable for transforming those vision or ideas or policies into real outcomes that either benefits people or benefits stakeholders or shareholders is something that is almost, I would say, universally inconsistent in terms of what you see. So you see various outcomes from different circumstances, and it makes you curious as to what can be done to actually bridge that kind of gap.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So, you work in a very, would you like to tell us what the title of your role is now? And then what I'd like to ask you about is something around leadership in your team.
Yeah, I'm a managing director looking after energy and natural resources, covering Africa and the Middle East, including Pakistan, which is a pretty large and broad geography. And what you discover when you're working with teams across covering, you could say, 20 to 30 different geographies potentially, with a very broad multicultural setting, is that you discover commonalities in the challenges that are in one specific market, and some of the learnings and what that you can transfer and or imbibe from different markets. So when you work in a multicultural setting and you've got a good stream of talent coming from both industry and finance, and you have to put all that together with some from also interaction with technical, well-grounded and experienced technical people in order to build solutions. It's absolutely fascinating, especially when you take ideas and opportunities and work with clients to transform them into reality.
Very good. And just like you to ask you about your team, I presume you've got a reasonable, how many people in your team currently?
15 to 20, and then we've got to be able to again, in matrix organizations, there will be what you call an inner team and then an outer team. However, the key thing is that your sphere of influence is not necessarily those that report to you on a day-to-day basis. It is the wider organization and the wider teams where your output or your input is critical to their being successful. So it's not so much. So if I travel into Pakistan, for instance, and I'm working with a team in Pakistan to be able to deliver an outcome for their client, you could argue, and the team in Pakistan see my team and myself as an extension of their team, and that goes both ways. And I think it's a very important mentality when you're working in matrix-driven organization where there's a lot of trade-offs, there's a lot of competition for resources, to be able to actually understand how you could use collaboration and virtual teams to be able to achieve results, because it's just not possible to have highly specialized teams in each market, because the opportunities would occur in one point in time and then migrates to another location, and then you've got to make all that work.
So what are the talents do you think you need to lead within a matrixed organisation as you do that is different from, say, sitting in one geography and having your team around?
I think one of the most important things is knowing. If you start with, you have to know your people. You also have to know your business, and then you need to understand how to bring the people process to work with the strategy process, and then to be able to transform the strategy process, which is probably more longer term, into operational type short-term deliverables, and follow that through.
So if you were talking to, if you were to put that in the language of say a school leaver, 13, 16, 18-year-old, teenager, how would you express that? If you're talking to them, what talents do you think you need to be able to lead across matrix organisation. So, for example, you've got 2 children, haven't you? I mean, they're young adults now.
Young adults.
What age are they?
They're 18 and 21.
Okay, so if how would you describe what you've just described to me in their language, in everyday language?
Let me start with by saying I will call it I'll call it emotional intelligence, but again, that's not their language. It's about working with partners, working with people, understanding their concerns, and helping people around you to be successful. If you walk into a room and it is not about you, but being able to say, okay, fine, this is a broad vision that is being looked at, and these are the people that have to make that happen. And then you can process that quickly into what are the building blocks and who are the stakeholders that needs to be brought together. And you basically position yourself as a catalyst.
Got it.
Instead of just seeing yourself as the anointed leader, if you see yourself as a catalyst to make things happen, I believe that a lot would get done, and a lot more successful outcomes will be achieved for teams as well as for businesses.
And just want to talk just to further the conversation around your children and young people. I just said you've got 2 young adults as children, and you obviously work with many millennials as well who are in their 20s, maybe count to 30 or whatever. And I was just curious to know, what are you noticing about the way in which they are leading themselves, and what do you think this might mean for the future in terms of leadership?
Values. Again, this is my personal observation. I think values and communication styles have changed quite a lot. But I would say that it's very important to be able to connect with people. Yes, there's a virtual piece of technology that helps to connect across boundaries, but it's about being able to understand being able to look at people and be able to beyond a conference call. A video conference, as you well know, is probably more effective in being able to arrive at an alignment than just a blank call, because people need to be able to communicate and talk to each other. So communication and enhances connectivity and solution a lot more than we see now. So I would say it's about being able to understand very quickly the kind of situations that require face-to-face interaction, and being able to develop more face-to-face skills alongside the new ways of doing things. So the new ways of doing things, you could call it Skyping, you could call it Instagram, you could call it WhatsApp or Facebook or any of the other communication tools. They work, or LinkedIn or whatever, social media, it does work. But being able to bifurcate, okay, fine, where are the ones when you're trying to resolve difficult issues, when you're trying to resolve conflicts, when you're trying to brainstorm on issues, you need to be able to see people's body language. You need to be able to connect with what is important to people, because communication, as you're well aware, the verbal piece is only a fraction of the whole, and without communication, collaboration is severely limited and impeded.
Thank you, it's very interesting. Let me just, I'd like to just give you a quote that I think is something that might resonate with you in some way, and I'd just like to know you're thinking about it. And the quote is, "I never lose, I either win or learn." Now that was stated by Nelson Mandela at some point in his career. So I'll repeat it again, "I never lose, I either win or learn." How does that resonate with you in your career?
That resonates very strongly because throughout my leadership journey, it is very important to reflect. Yes, you are working, you're trying to get things done, but it's very important to reflect. And I think that quote particularly speaks to the value of reflection as a way of first refreshing yourself and picking yourself up when things don't necessarily go as well as they should, but as well being able to inspire people around you such that they take every opportunity, whether it's a success or a failure, as a learning moment, as a learning opportunity, or as a coaching opportunity. The big challenge, obviously, is that the approach that people use to communicate it may differ. Some will do it formally in terms of a session or a soul search, and some will do it in terms of changing their behaviors or how they will react. I don't recommend one over the other. It depends on people's styles, but I think maybe somewhere in the middle of that, between having a formal type session to do a diagnostic and actually just changing and retooling yourself and relearning things. I think it's very important.
Thank you. I know that we've been speaking about you working in a multicultural setting. You've talked about leadership as a leader as a catalyst for change or making change happen. You've spoken about the real value of face-to-face communication, particularly in times of building businesses, challenge, building collaboration, etc. And I'd like to finish on, you have a particular interest, I know, in working beyond the vision for an organisation, maybe beyond the vision for yourself as well. So I'd like you to share your thoughts around that before we close.
Well, I would say one thing that underlines most successful businesses, organizations, and when I talk about that, it's not just in terms of private or public, it could even be not-for-profit, is execution. It's about the discipline of getting things done, and the discipline of getting things done comes with a realization that it is centered around people. So I see execution very much as how to link people, strategy and operations, the tactics, and create a business based on communication and realism. Because it's all good to sit in a vision session or strategy session and imagine very broad issues, but you got to center it down to, okay, what do you actually need to do, and the people you need to put together, the collaborations, the trade-offs that needs to be done in order to actually achieve the goals. And in most organizations and in the real world, most decisions and power resides in matrix. So you've got to be able to compete for resources, and you've got to be able to justify how much more valuable your ask for resources is, and how you apply them, and that comes with being able to have very good dialogue across the table and beside the table, and being able to bring things together to be able to get things done. I would say execution and the discipline of getting things done is something that is absolutely important, and that we all need to spend a bit more time on, beyond just visioning.
Thank you very much indeed, Ade. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.